Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Statmiller. I'm the athletic director here at Jordan Elbridge High School. Thank you for attending our parent meeting this evening. You can see my contact information is here on the screen. Phone number at the high school, 689-8510, extension 1005. And my email address is up there as well. One of the easiest ways to get in contact with me if you have questions. I put a social media page up there as well. We are on Twitter, pretty active up there, posting game updates and things like that. And also our athletic text updates reminders. We send out stream links for games, game reminders, any sudden changes that might happen occurring to weather. As you know, that has been problematic in the spring. So thank you for coming tonight. If you've had an athlete in any sport this season, a lot of this may be repeat to you, hence us taping this today instead of doing our normal live session. If you do have any questions on anything that you see today, though, please reach out, give me a call or shoot me an email. But a lot of this, again, as most of our athletes, as I look through, have done a sport this year already. Some of this may not be new news to you, but we're going to go through some of the most important policies and updates that we have. Again, I introduced myself as Dan Statmiller, athletic director. Other people on my staff, Serena Simmons is my athletics assistant in the athletic office, and Rebecca DeMario is our athletic trainer. Principal is Mr. Mark Schermerhorn, high school principal. If you have questions, also he can help with any high school related athletics or academic concerns. And then Dave Schaefer is our middle school principal, who helps oversee our modified programs. Some policy updates for you today. Again, Family ID was what we used to sign up. All the kids should be signed up in there. That's where you sign off on your informed consent and provide a current physical for the kids this year. The physical had to be within the past 3 school years due to the COVID pandemic. So most kids, if they played a sport this year, they are definitely good to go. You'll see the pink form on the screen that I have right here. This will be going out day 1 to our athletes. This needs to be returned as soon as possible to the coaches. They are an authorization for emergency treatment form, and these, in the event that an emergency happens and a student needs to be transported, these forms will go with those students. It has important information as well as insurance information. So please make sure you get those back as soon as possible. Those are we call them the pink forms. Daily health screenings. This has been going on since winter sports. Each day, students need to complete a daily health screening that shows that they are free of COVID-19 symptoms. It is a quick form, and I will address how they can do that later, but we've made it very easy for them. We've created QR codes that they can use their phones to scan. It's posted on our athletics website as well. So I've even suggested to kids, if they don't have a phone or are not comfortable using the QR codes, all of our kids have Chromebooks now. They can go on the website, the athletics website, click on the daily health screenings portion under the athletics tab and take the quick survey. When they do the daily health screening, they'll also take their temperatures before they go to practice. We have the temperature gauges all around the buildings, and coaches will facilitate that. 2 of the most important policies that we end up dealing with every year are our chain of command and 24-hour rule. Please remember, when issues arise, encourage your athletes to go to the coach first. We really want to have kids advocating for themselves as they start to become young adults and adults. So we want them to start to advocate for themselves first. If there's an issue occurring, go to the coach first. If the issue is not resolved at that point, it is appropriate for the parent to get involved and address the coach as well with the concerns. And again, if at that point you still don't feel the issue is resolved, you should reach out to the athletic director. There are certain times when you would reach out to the athletic director right away if it was a major safety concern or something where you thought that a code of conduct violation was being broken by the coach. That is something that I could see you coming directly to me for. But a lot of times, if you call me with a team issue, I'm going to direct the kid and the parent to the coach first to try to resolve it. Items that we do not really discuss: coach's strategy and play calling. That is the coach's responsibility. Yes, I do oversee that, and yes, I evaluate it on a year-to-year basis. But they've been the coach that's been appointed for the year, and they're the ones in charge of that. Playing time, especially as we're talking varsity sports, playing time is not always equal or happening at all for certain kids. And the coach's discretion will always be used to decide that. And then we cannot discuss other students. I know a lot of times you will call and parents will call and ask and say, well, this student, this other student did this or that. or this other student's getting more playing time. We can't discuss other students other than your athlete with you. So if coaches kind of don't really respond to that, that would be the reason why. We can only discuss your athlete with you. Some of the basics this year, our time at the high school, as you are aware, is a little bit different. 1:35 is dismissal, and we can start as early as 2 p.m. We will not be taking complete advantage of that. For the most part, girls varsity lacrosse will be going at 3, boys varsity lacrosse at 4. I believe baseball is between 2:30 and 3, and softball is at 3:30. And the weekly schedule will always be posted on the athletics website, and coaches should be communicating the practice schedules to you on a weekly basis. As always, everything this year plan on changes. There will be changes that might be last minute. There will be changes that could be down the road a little bit. We don't know how a lot of these things are going to unfold. And we have a lot of the most variables, I'd say, of any season, with weather alone. And now you had the COVID-19 pandemic involved. So please have flexibility. There are going to be some last minute changes. Things happen. We're all in this together, and we need to support each other. So high school students at 1:35, you can go home, or if you don't have a ride home and you want to stay, you can go to sports study hall in the cafeteria. You can't just walk around the building. You can't just go walk around school grounds. You need to be accounted for, especially during this pandemic. We need to know how many contact minutes you have with certain students. So you can go there up until 3:45. If you're practicing like 4 or 5 o'clock, you're not going to be able to go there. You're going to have to go home and come home first. Okay, so again, plan ahead, make sure you talk to your coach and know your schedule. No jewelry at practice or at games, and this is a NISFA rule. It used to be only games, but now it includes practices. So earrings, necklaces, bracelets, all of that stuff has to be off at practice and games, not just games anymore. Our season dates, we started the 19th and we'll run through approximately the 5th. There will be sectionals this year, and this is the first season we are getting back into sectional play. Those will take place the week after. So if your team qualifies for sectionals, plan on going the next week, as games will probably start that Tuesday, Wednesday, and if they win, go Thursday, Friday, and it could go even longer. The modified season starts a little bit later. That's the 30th through the 11th. And again, that should end hard on the 11th. The 30th is a Friday. We do start on a Friday. We probably won't actually start practice to the 3rd. But the physical waiver for students that have a physical in the past 3 years expires on the 30th. So most schools are having their official start date as the 30th. That way the kids' physicals are good. Plan on having weekends at all events, including JV, varsity, modified. We can go 7 days a week. I will do everything I possibly can to avoid scheduling games on a Sunday, but it is a possibility. So just want to put that out there and make sure everyone's aware of it. We are using locker rooms again, and there's roughly 8 students at a time allowed in locker rooms. For the most part, those students should be coming to practice and games prepared, ready to go. Obviously, there's always circumstances that pop up, and we do have locker rooms for kids to use if they need to be. And the turf locker rooms can accommodate a few more, roughly 15 on each side. So we will have locker rooms, we will have locker access for students, and they will be being cleaned regularly. If students bring bags, they need to be 6 feet apart. I know the guidelines have gone down to 3, and I listen, I'm not just going to take a measuring stick out and make sure everyone's bag is 6 feet apart, but the students' bags should not be laying all on top of each other. And when celebrating and whether they score a goal, a run, do a personal best in an event, make sure that we're trying not to have a lack of social distancing. Obviously, these are contact sports, some more than others. And there is some inherent risk in contact, but we want to limit any non-contact that we don't have to have, okay, to reduce any risk of transmission. A lot here, but I'm basically just going to come out and say it. Face coverings have to be worn over the face and the nose as tolerated. If they can't tolerate it, they need to take breaks. Again, we really want them wearing them all the time. And if there are mask breaks that are needed, I know we did that with fall sports. We've kind of veered away from mask breaks, and kids take them as needed now and come out and get a breath. We have noticed that the paper masks or the temporary masks seem to be the most tolerable for kids. In the fall, we tried our hand with the Under Armour masks. They were okay. I still have a supply of those if anyone would like one. We're selling them for $20 a piece, and you can call my athletic office and pick some up if you want. They're originally $30 at the store, so we get a $10 break on them. And the masks will be worn by trainers, bench players, myself, anyone else. And again, they will cover the nose and mouth. They need to be just basic masks. They can have school colors, school logo, things like that. But we're not getting into personal agendas or messages scribed onto masks. We are playing for schools, and we do need to maintain a neutral stance on a lot of the things that are going on right now. So we ask that they are not to have those personal agenda masks. Again, just following up on the health screenings, I said each athlete will have to do these every day at the middle school and high school, regardless of where they're practicing. There's a QR code which you can take your phone and you can scan a code and with your camera, and that will take you directly to the health screening form. You fill it out on your phone, boop, you're done for the day. They can also do it on the athletics website. It's right under the athletics tab. It says daily health screening for COVID-19. They click it. It's 3 quick questions, submit, they're done for the day. But again, it's tedious. It does have to be done every day. And this is a requirement of the county and the state to be running interscholastic athletics. It is really important because every time I send a group of students somewhere, I have to ensure that they've all been screened before they travel. So we will be checking that, and Rebecca DeMario, our athletic trainer, mainly oversees this, but I will be involved too if needed. And other health screenings, we do COVID testing every Monday for all athletics and extracurriculars. So it's a quick lower nasal test. It's not the PCR test that goes way up the nose. It's an antigen test. The good and bad about these antigen tests, if it's a positive, it's definitely positive. So they are extremely reliable when it comes to determining positive cases. You're very, 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 very unlikely to get a false positive out of these tests. So that is good news. As I said, Onondaga County is the health department that is having us test. They provide the test to us every week at no charge to us. So we will be doing that, and we call the students down by team every Monday morning, and the middle school will do it at lunchtime. The nurse will come and get them from the cafeteria and they test. In terms of other health and safety issues, Rebecca DeMario is our certified athletic trainer. She is full-time here at the school. She has offices at the school in the stadium. We will primarily work out of the stadium for the spring season. And spring is one of the toughest seasons for her and I. Our teams are all over the place. We have people practicing at Elbridge Middle School and the high school. So it is impossible for her to be at every place at once, myself included. So we do bounce around, and she will tend to be at the highest risk sport where there's most likely to be an injury. And it's just, based on the data, boys lacrosse tends to be one of our higher risk sports. So if there's a baseball game or a softball game going on and a lacrosse game, she will probably head to the baseball and softball game first because they start a little earlier, and then take off and head over to the stadium for the lacrosse games. Now she can be reached by cell phone. She has a district cell phone, so our coaches all have that and can get a hold of her if there was ever an injury that needed to be taken care of. She is not a primary care doctor, although I would trust her with my life. She does not have the credentials for that, but she is extremely knowledgeable and will refer you to primary care or orthopedic if needed. Her schedule is posted weekly for the coaches. They know where she will be. And one of the 2 biggest things we deal with this year are concussions and COVID infections. So concussion, when in doubt, we will leave them out. If a doctor does clear them to return, that does not mean that they start playing and return right away. There is a return to play protocol, and it's about a 5-day process. It could be a little bit longer if the student takes longer. She will oversee that. It eases them back into participation, making sure they are symptom-free and that they don't have any long-term impacts of this concussion by returning. The next one is a COVID infection return to play protocol. And again, this is important because it starts with a doctor release. Kid cannot participate after a COVID infection until they've had a release from the doctor due to some ongoing cardio issues that we have seen with especially our younger students. So really important, the doctor has to release them, and then there is a return to play protocol. It is not nearly as intense as the return from a concussion, but it monitors their heart rate and making sure that they are safe to continue participating. Code of conduct. Now, code of conduct is posted on the athletic website. It is a rather lengthy document, so I've taken some of the more important policies that I want you to be aware of. But please review that code of conduct at your leisure. Some of the most important policies that we deal with, one of them is the quitting policy. And if an athlete participates in 15 or more practices, games, and then decides to quit, they are ineligible for 50% of next season's contest. And the way we look at this, listen, if you've put in 15 or more practices or games at this point and you're quitting, you've basically committed to that program, and we want our kids to finish out their commitments. So you need to finish out that commitment, or else there is a penalty to that. So if you sign up for something, you've done it for likely more than 30%, almost 40% of the year at this point, you got to finish it out. Next one has to do with discipline based on the district's code of conduct. If a student is found to be guilty of any type of bullying and harassment, they are subject to discipline based on the code of conduct. This can include suspension from practices, games, or contests. It could be suspension from school. They could be dismissed from the team or activity, and they could be dismissed from the athletic program altogether. So we do take this stuff very seriously. Other things in the district code of conduct that could end them up in hot water would be having tobacco products, electronic cigarettes. You'll see that as underlined, e-cigs, Juuls, vapes, whatever you want to call them nowadays. They are an issue still. We do have vape detectors in our high school, and they go off multiple times a week, and we do catch kids with these multiple times a week. In places they hide them, trying to make sure that we don't find them, but we do have a metal detector that we will use to help search for these, as they have lithium batteries, which will make the metal detector go off. But every year we also have issues with alcohol and drugs. A lot of it comes from people not being smart, taking pictures, posting them online. Kids always turn these into us. Parents always turn these into us. So be smart. When you're involved in a season, you can't be doing stuff like this, nor should you be outside the year, as a lot of these things are illegal for people under the age of 21 or all ages. Okay, so these are prohibited, and you will have consequences. What will they be? Well, any code of conduct violation, whether it's bullying, substance abuse, fighting, anything, any major consequence. Your first offense, you will be suspended for 7 days from the sport. If it involved drugs and alcohol, you will meet with a drug and alcohol counselor, which would be one of our counselors here at school, and you will need to meet with me and the building principal before you return. If you do it a second time, you're done with the sport for the season, and the same thing as above with the alcohol and drug counselors if needed. If there's a third offense, you are permanently done with school athletics and extracurriculars here at Jordan Elbridge. And again, this is not just during a season. This is your enrollment as a JE student. So it is really important. We hold our student athletes and extracurricular activity participants to a very high level. So it is important that they are not involved in these things. Spectators, there's going to be a little bit more on this later, but we are allowing 2 spectators per athlete. And we are going to continue to stream games via YouTube, and that's primarily going to be games at the stadium. We do not have at this time a way to stream baseball, softball, as their fields are way out there. So having internet and power could be a challenge. We're looking at how to figure this out, but right now it is highly unlikely that anything outside the stadium will be streamed, just based on technological support that we have. So when there are streams, I will post them on the athletics department website. I send them out on Remind. I send them on athletics Twitter. So those will be available for you. And anything that airs live typically is uploaded to the the YouTube page and stays there as well, so you can catch up on it later. Each senior will be allowed 2 guests, and we'll accompany them onto the quarter field for photos and speeches as well. That is something we've opened up a little bit more, and we've had good success on that as well. I'm going to click out of this for a minute and bring up my spectator rules. Hopefully you can see what I'm looking at. If not, I am going to read it out loud here. So again, each player will be allowed 2 spectators. Each spectator must wear their OHSL pass. Each kid will get 2 passes. They'll be on a little lanyard similar to what I'm wearing, and they have the pass right on it. They have to wear those throughout the game. We had some issues with people passing them back and forth. If you're in the facility, you have to have a pass on. Baseball, softball fields, obviously there's no entrance and exit, so we ask that you wear your pass when you're there and socially distance in your seating. There will be proctors that can go around and will be looking for passes. If you don't have it on, they will most likely be asking you for your pass. We don't have any really back-to-back games this year. We may have some at the stadium with lacrosse. So, for example, if the boys lacrosse team is playing at 5 and the girls is playing after, all the people need to leave from the boys game, and then I can let the fans from the girls game in. Okay, so we have some limits on capacity, so I can't have everybody in there all at once. When you're in the stadium, you have to wear your face covering correctly, or at the softball field. I understand that you're socially distant and you may be sitting with one other person in your house. I get that. I totally do. And I agree with you in a lot of sense. It's kind of silly to be wearing a face mask. We're outside. I'm sitting with next to people that might be fully vaccinated. And I don't disagree, but we have to operate under the rules that we were given, and you have to have a face covering on school property over your nose and over your mouth. My proctors are instructed to tell you to put your face mask on properly. They don't like doing this. I don't like doing this, but it is what we have to do to keep sports going. And, we're not going to, let our guard down on this one. We want the kids active. So please keep social distance. Please refrain from entering more than 20 minutes before the contest. Again, just limiting contact time. At the end of the event, you need to leave promptly. I know this started to happen at the end of the year, people standing out and talking, and we got to move that along. Again, we're trying to limit contact, and I know people think we're out of the woods here, and more and more people are getting vaccinated, but we're still popping a couple positive cases every week. So it is really important that we don't congregate and we leave promptly after. This is not a popular rule, but it is a rule for anything at the stadium. You can't park in the parking lot and sit out there and tailgate in your trucks or your cars. And again, I know some people I've had to ask to leave and they say, well, it's just me, it's just one person, but that's how it starts. And then we have, next thing I know, I have a parking lot full of people trying to watch in their cars. People are on the hill. It leads from one thing to another. And it's not because I don't want people there. Believe me, I want those gates to be open and people flowing in and out freely. But again, we have to have pretty strict limits on how many people we allow if we want to continue sports. So again, it's not because I don't want people there. It's not because I want to be a jerk and kick people out. That has nothing to do with it. If I could invite you in and have you in the stadium, I would. But a lot of the times people that are on the hill or in the parking lot, no masks, no social distance, eating food, not a good example. And we will be strict on that. So I'm sorry, you had to have a pass to watch, and that includes the parking lot and the Red Barn. Failure to comply with these rules will result in loss of spectator privileges for the remainder of the year, or we'll go back to what we did in the winter and just have no spectators at all. Really don't want to do that. Okay. And again, at the baseball, softball, middle school fields, just make sure you have your passes on you. Be prepared to present proof of pass to a proctor. Okay, so we're going to finish up. Water, make sure that students have an appropriate amount of water to last them the entire practice. And this is an odd season, as it could be 40 degrees one day and then 70 degrees the next. So it's important that kids are dressed appropriately for the elements. They have clothes for both indoor, outdoor, and that they also have enough water. We will have some water jugs for games, but again, we really suggest kids have their own water to last the entire practice and game. Some important dates here: April 19th, all spring JV and varsity sports begin, as you know. Modified sports start the 30th of April. And yes, this is a Friday. I will send an email on how we will address this with modified. The reason, again, I talked about at the beginning, April 30th is a Friday. That is the last day of the physical waiver from New York State. So we're officially going to start the 30th. However, I have a feeling most of my coaches will probably just have an informal meeting or cancel practice that day and start on a Monday, as a lot of our kids are still participating in another sport that day. And actually that sport on the 30th, if they're practicing or have a game, can count as a practice if they're in football or volleyball currently. Winter Fall 2 Varsity Sports Awards. This is just an FYI. It's going to be digital. We'll be doing that on the 27th, and that will air on YouTube. And then June 10th, a date to put down will be our Spring Sports Awards and Senior Athlete Recognition. We will be doing this in person. I am super excited to welcome people back for this, and we will be doing it at the stadium. More details on that will come as we get closer. Philosophy of athletics. We won't really be running any JV teams this year, so we're just focusing on the modified and varsity. Again, modified, every player plays in every game unless there's a discipline issue, and they will work with the varsity coach to achieve the same goals. Varsity, I have this underlined because a majority of our teams are falling in this category right now. Winning is definitely more of a consideration. It's not the only thing. Winning is never the only thing. Character and team building is extremely important, but winning is a consideration, especially as we return to sectional play. However, I tell our coaches they are to put their best foot forward, the best lineup that they think is going to give them the best chance at being competitive and winning. So there are some kids that might not get the same playing time or any playing time at all. And I know as a parent that's tough. And I have an athlete myself, and he's in competitive sports, and I understand that this can be frustrating as a parent. And there's no easy way to put it, that it's just not going to be equal for playing time, and the coach is going to do what they can to make sure that they have their best competitive lineup in there. Eligibility, to sum this up quick, I took this right out of the code of conduct. Any kid that is failing 2 or more classes is on academic probation, and they need to complete some forms each week to make sure that they're eligible. And I will meet with the kids so that they know when they're ineligible, and I will contact you as well. Transportation, we will be providing transport to and from contests. However, we do encourage parents and guardians to transfer their own kids if possible. At that point, we don't want them to be carpooling or anything like that. You can transport your kid to and from contests if needed. That way they don't have as much contact time on the bus. All students must be clear through COVID protocol. We said buses have a maximum capacity of 22. If the team is larger than 22, they will likely have to take 2 buses or have it traveling only. And they do need to wear their masks on the bus at all times. If they don't do that, they won't be riding the bus. They can't stop for food this year, and they will not have food on the bus as well. If they do need a drink, they can get a drink. The transportation authorization form is here. They can fill this out. The coaches have it. So if you are driving your kid to or from, you will put your name and relationship and sign this and get it back to the coach so they know who can transport your kids to and from. Many of our uniforms, if they're Under Armour, they're brand new. Please do not dry them or use fabric softener. That will ruin them. Failure to return uniforms will result in a bill for the said uniform. So students that have negative debt to the district cannot participate in graduation activities. If there's any damage to the uniforms, please let me know. A lot of these are warranted and I can get them covered. And lastly, before we go, any violations you believe that are occurring in the athletic program of COVID, please email covidviolation@jecsd.org or call the dedicated COVID line for violations at 689-8500, extension 1509. Okay, or you can just call me or email me as well. Those both go to my email address anyways. If you have any questions, please reach out. This concludes our presentation tonight. I tried to make it as quick and as informational as possible. This will be taped and posted to our athletics website as well as our YouTube page. Everybody have a great spring season. I can't wait to see you out at the venues here at Jordan Elbridge, and we will see you soon.